Hello, I am the Dark Knight Apologist, and welcome back to Dark Knight Apologetics. Hello, I am your host Jeremy, and welcome to another video on my channel. Please watch the video all the way through. Please watch the video all the way through to the end. Please watch the video all the way through to the end. Please like this video. This is that second part of the Enoch video I promised you. And in this video, we are going to be answering 3 questions. 1. Let me make that font bigger so you can actually read it. 1 will be what is the Deuterocannon? I did spell that right? Yeah, Deuterocannon. D-E-U-T-E-R-C-A-N-O-N, Deuterocannon. Yeah, that's right. And then 2 would be, is Enoch part of the Deuterocannon? 3 would be, is the version of Enoch that has survived to the modern day the same version of Enoch that Jude quoted from in his book. Those are our 3 questions that we're answering in this video. Okay? So let's start with question number 1. What is the Deuterocannon? The deuterocanonical books, from the Greek meaning belonging to the second canon, are books and passages considered by the Catholic Church, the Eastern Orthodox Church, the Oriental Orthodox Church, and the Assyrian Church of the East to be canonical books of the Old Testament, but which are considered non-canonical by Protestant denominations. They date from the period 300 BC to AD 100 approximately, mostly from 200 BC to AD 70, i.e. before the definite separation of the Church from Judaism. While the New Testament never quotes from or ascribes canonical authority to these books, some say there is a correspondence of thought, while others see texts from these books being paraphrased, referred or alluded to many times in the New Testament, particularly in the Pauline epistles, depending in large measure on what is counted as a reference. That was from Wikipedia. Okay, so canonical by the Catholic Church and Orthodox Church. Tobit, Judith, Baruch, Sirach, 1st Maccabees, 2nd Maccabees, Wisdom, additions to Esther, additions to Daniel, the letter of Jeremiah or Baruch, Baruch chapter 6, canonical only by the Orthodox Church, the Prayer of the Manasseh, 1st Esdras, 3rd Maccabees, Psalm 151. As far as I know, there are actually like 6 extra psalms that are not normally included in Protestant Bibles. And there's like 7 chapters added to Esther that are not normally included in Protestant Bibles, and 2 chapters added to Daniel that are not normally included in Protestant Bibles. You also have 4th Maccabees and Odes, books that are not included in the these are books that are not included in the Deuterocannon. You have Enoch, the book that we are talking about. You have Jubilees, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Maccabean, Paralipomena of Baruch, and the broader canon. So, yeah, Enoch is not considered part of the Deuterocannon. It is not considered part of it. And as I understand it, is Enoch part of the Deuterocannon? No. And is the version of Enoch that has survived to the modern day the same version of Enoch that Jude quoted from in his book? To our knowledge, no. No, it is not the same version. Most scholars would say it is not the same version, and from what I can tell of what I've read of the Book of Enoch, it is not the same version, because there are parts of the Book of Enoch that has survived to the modern day. There are parts in it that are actually not from the Book of Enoch, but are from a smaller book known as the Book of Noah. So, yeah, the Book of Enoch that has survived to the modern day is just basically pieced together from things that have survived. So we have no way of knowing if it's the same book that Jude quoted from. It probably isn't. So yeah, flat earthers really shouldn't trust this book. Traditional Christianity doesn't trust it. So cults should not trust it either. But what are you going to do? Cults will be cults. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say for this video. Okay. If I have more to say, I'll add it in. Okay? I have studied some of the Apocrypha. Most of what I've studied in the way of Apocrypha and Deuterocanonical books are the stuff included in the Catholic Bible, like the additions to Psalms, the additions to Daniel, the additions to Esther. that kind of stuff. That's what I've studied. I haven't really bothered with anything else in the Apocrypha or Deuterocannon because, well, I don't really see a point in it. It just doesn't make much sense to study those books. If I had the free time, I probably would study them, but I'm just too busy. Now, I have skimmed through some of the Book of Enoch. I've looked at some of it. It's why I know some of the things that I know about it. I've done some research on it, but I haven't ever actually read it all the way through. I look at the Book of Enoch as basically ancient fiction. It's a book that has some good lessons in it, maybe. I'm not sure. I haven't actually read it. It might have some good lessons in it. You know, it has at least one. Jude thought it was good enough to quote one verse from it. So we know it has at least one good lesson in there. Jude thought it was good enough to quote at least one good lesson from it, then there's at least one good lesson in the book. But we don't even know if the version of the Book of Enoch that survived to the modern day is the same version that Jude read. I don't think it is. I'm pretty sure it isn't. Everything we have indicates that it probably is not the same book. So there really is no reason to trust that book. And yes, I do think they did write fiction back in ancient times. We've always wrote fiction. Why wouldn't we write fiction? People like to tell stories. That's why we have the dragon myths. Because people like to tell stories. Okay? So of course some fiction is going to exist in the old days. That's what Enoch is. It's fiction. Which is why it was not included in the Bible, because it was never treated as scripture. It was just treated as interesting fiction. That's the way I look at it. Okay? I think that's all I need to say. Okay, that should be everything. I have no problem believing that a book of what could be called biblical fiction, like the Book of Enoch, could possibly contain some theological truths that a book that was then later on deemed scripture-worthy, like the Book of Jude, could quote from. I have no problem believing that, because presumably even ancient people would write fiction. So it does make sense that even back then they would still write fiction. And you would have a genre known as theological fiction, where you would have scripture-like elements, but everybody regards the book as being fiction. Everybody understands that the book is fiction, even though it's written as though it is scripture. But everybody understands the book is fiction. Everybody understands the book is theological fiction. They understand that the book is fiction, like the Book of Enoch. It would be theological fiction. Everybody understands that it's fiction, but it's written like it's scripture, if that makes sense, okay? I think that makes sense. So Jude quoted something that he thought was theologically true, but came from a book that he knew was theological fiction. Does that make any sense? We quote from books and works of fiction in the modern day, so why wouldn't they quote from books and works of fiction in the ancient times? It does make sense, I think. I think it makes sense, okay? Yeah, it makes sense. Okay. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and ring the bell. And also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter and join my Discord. Links to Twitter and Discord will be in the description. This is the Dark Knight Apologist, and I just wanted to say, see you next time.